The artificial partner in Resident Evil 5 is actually really, really good. Only if you, 1, play as Sheva, 2, let it play as Chris, and 3, dress it up in the ridiculous safari costume. Why? Well, hold your horses, pal, because here comes the intro.
The story begins with who's gonna win, knowing the danger that lies within. A boy at the ark, a genius at heart, wanting to unlock the mysteries of life. I am the Eggman, that's what I am. I am the Eggman, I got the master plan. I am the Eggman, that's what I am. I am the Eggman, with the master plan.
RE5 came straight off the heels of RE4, no surprise if you know how to count. But important is that this predecessor is, at least today, regarded by most as the strongest entry in the series, balancing its horror and survival elements against its excessive action sequences using things like a hidden dynamic difficulty system and, as I've personally argued in the past, its phenomenal sense of pacing. It pulls everything together in all the right places to serve a game that's instantly familiar to a modern viewer. Familiar because it was so good that basically every game after copied the shit out of it. So imagine the challenge in trying to follow that shit up. How do you follow up, update, upgrade the third-person survival horror action game that redefined third-person action games? Well, you can't blame them for thinking adding the one feature it lacked would be enough: multiplayer. So Resident Evil 5 is a co-op multiplayer game intended to be played by teams of 2, either split screen on the same couch or online via network connection. Except not everyone has a friend, a couch, or a connection, so to cover their bases, the game provided a basic AI partner to take control of the other character. And this AI, as I've discussed in the past, sucks hard fucking ass. Why? Because it doesn't behave like a person. It's stupid. It barely reads combat situations correctly and doesn't know the best uses of any of the guns you give it. It's annoying. Its presence gets frustrating when you're stuck doing puzzles that it has no way of helping you with. And most importantly, it's wasteful. The survival in that survival horror genre means you've got a lot of resource management tasks, something your automated partner seems unaware of. It chews through ammunition like it's nobody's fucking business, like it's not in expressly the kind of game where thinking ahead and preservation and not chewing through ammo are exactly what's demanded of you, meaning you as the player need to adapt and have a more boring time using the high rate of fire guns it misuses. And of course it also wastes healing items on minor injuries, healing items which, if kept, can be upgraded, but whoops, looks like you'll never get the chance. Meaning again, you, the player, need to adapt and carry all the medicine yourself, filling up your inventory which otherwise could be used to hold more fun things like guns, grenades, you know, the shit you want. The partner which is supposed to support you ends up forcing you to support it. The issue being that only one of you's here is the one that spent money on this game. The other one's a fucking automaton. And this is how I've gotten used to talking about RE5's partner all this time that it's stayed relevant to conversations. This little amateur reverse engineering project from way back has certainly been useful to me. This is the spiel that I've rewritten, revoiced over, and reused the same footage of for years. But the mistake I've made in the way I've judged and criticized this bot is that I've always unfairly wanted it to be something it's not, something it can't be. I've wanted it to be human. And yeah, as I've shown before, future games like RE6 unhinged it enough and added some special fluff that did make it feel more human, but that wasn't necessary here. I believe that with a single change, RE5's partner system could have more than satisfied me, and I assume anyone else who played it. Now what it comes down to is an issue of context more than an issue of functionality.
Come on!
Roger.
Go!
Roger.
Come on!
Roger.
Go!
Okay.
RE5's automated companion, which takes control of the second player when you can't play cooperatively with another human, does not properly replicate that sort of experience. Its behavior is hitchlessly reverse engineerable. It's very apparent after the first few levels that it's just a robot in a flesh suit that you need to babysit. But as I've discovered, that's my issue. It's the flesh suit, not the behavior. It's the fact that it's masking its true nature from me, constantly trying to trick me with its fancy graphics and animations that it's a real person and not a robot. And that's why playing as Sheva myself and letting it inhabit the body of Chris in his safari suit leads to a much better experience for me. Because with that dumbass suit, that silver hair, and those dark shades, this thing is unmistakably a robot. It looks like the fucking Terminator. So what I once judged unfairly for perceiving it as human, a partner, a companion, I now learn to make the most out of what it really is. A tool, a weapon, a goddamn drone. Believe Believe it or not, in the middle of this whole global pandemic, I moved apartments. And in doing so, I reached the limits of what my shitty old vacuum, that I only got because it was the cheapest on Amazon, could handle. So out with the old Cume, I was on the market for a new Cume, and suddenly I'm getting bombarded by ads for Roombas. I guess it's just something I never really kept up with, but suddenly I'm learning that Roombas and their knockoffs have gotten really fucking good and really fucking cheap in the last couple of years. And now I'm convinced, if I can find one at the right price, same range as the regular level 2 vacuums I was peeping, then fuck it, I'm gonna go for it. A few days of watching vacuum reviews later, and here it is, my pick, the Shark something or other, a knockoff Roomba I got at a sale price that was better than most regular manual machines I'd seen. And in my opinion, you can't really put a price on never having to sweep again, so there's that too. And a few weeks of having it, I can honestly say it's improved my life. The thing is better at sweeping than I am with a similar tool. It's got arrays of brushes and a big suction panel that pull crap off the floor easily, especially in hard to reach places like under the raised counters which my new apartment has. Just for a minute, imagine trying to shove a fucking vacuum nozzle under here. This shit's not like a couch, you can't just move it and sweep underneath. You'd have to lay on the floor and poke around in there like some sort of contortionist pool shark just to do a half-assed job you wouldn't even be proud of. Meanwhile, this fucking thing has no problems. It goes under the counters, it goes under the bed, it goes under the couches. Thing's a fucking champ and I don't get no fucking cramp. And on that note, unlike me, who complains whenever I have to change my stature to get anything done, this thing doesn't. It's got no issues to report. I mean, it's not completely perfect, I can't just trust it to do a whole job on its own. It does get stuck on things from time to time, like loose wires on the floor and this one particular spot between the toilet and the tub, but having to remember to just tidy up quickly and block tight spots before it runs on the days I've scheduled it to run, and remembering to empty and clean it from time to time is much less effort, in my opinion, than vacuuming myself. Which now, as a side effect, means that I actually have the apartment cleaned more often. I hate sweeping. I always have, I always will. Give me a lawn to mow, I've got no complaints, but fuck off with that dusty floor. It's boring, it feels like a waste of time, it sucks. Literally. So historically, I've kind of been a slob when it comes to that. I'm lucky if I vacuumed once a month. But now that vacuuming is something I can initiate at the press of a button on my phone, or not even at all if I use the scheduling feature, I get my place cleaned much more often and I spend much less time doing the few manual tasks that are still left to me. I've gone from less than once a month to 3 times a week because with the required effort so low, I can scale it up as much as I want. I feel better living in a tidier place. The floor is cleaner, the air is cleaner, and I'm less stressed. I can pick at my beard all my waking hours not worried about leaving a trail of crumbly little hairs behind me. Fucking A right. This tool has automated away a part of my life which I didn't enjoy, and even though it still requires a little bit of work on my part and it's not an instant magical fix, it's made me feel a lot better and has freed me to spend my time doing things I want to do, like make this video for instance, while still sweeping my place at a higher frequency than I ever have in my life. And the best fucking part is, and I warn you, this might sell you instantly on this sort of shit, but you know those raised counters? Yeah, well, I put the thing's dock under them, so when it's done, it just slips back inside the charge and stays out of sight until its next run. I literally never even have to look at this thing unless I want to. Fantastic. And this, the way I've incorporated my knockoff Roomba into my life, reflects the optimistic view of automation technology. This technology exists to serve me, to free me of chores and allow me to do things I actually want to do. And even though it does, it shouldn't surprise me that at this point in my life, I've allowed in a robot to do work for me. As a programmer, automation is part of my job. And not only have I built and do I maintain large automated systems, mind you, the sorts of automated systems that don't necessarily replace a manual one, but rather exist only because of the systems upon systems they rest on, but I mean, you probably wouldn't say that a website has the same job-stealing potential as any sort of textile machine, but building small automations for myself is a regular thing. Development is probably one of the rare instances of work where you're empowered to build your own tools to solve your own problems. As a personal rule of thumb, if I'm asked to perform a long, laborious task more than 3 times, I document its steps, knowing for a fact it'll come up probably when I'm least prepared. I've come back from a trip or something and I don't have the faintest clue how to start it. Then if the task is required more and more, I'll typically consider building a small personal automation to handle it for me. Of course, taking into account the amount of time it'll take to build that automation. Obviously, if it takes longer to build and test the script than it ever will take you to just do the task throughout your lifetime, it's not worth it. But of course, as I've alluded to, there's typically less of a positive light that automation is cast under. In a lot of places, automation replaces laborers and steals work. When the work is cleaning my house and it's something I'd rather not do, it's not a big deal. When it's work that someone relies on for their salary, of course, it's tougher. Though, it's easy to forget that a lot of these sorts of systems are worked on by people and do, in the best cases, open up opportunities for new jobs, or at the very least, provide some sort of commercial or social benefit. I worked previously in the medical tech industry, and the name of the game there is automation. Basically, the way to look at it is that doctors are experts at their medical shit, and everything else around them should be automated so that as much of their time as possible is spent doing that medical shit which they're experts at. Anytime a doctor spends in a software clicking through options or navigating menus is time wasted not doing the one thing no system can do for them. Read studies, assess patient details, whatever. I'm not kidding you when I say people in that industry measure things in terms of clicks. Saving a click in any sort of flow is seen as a massive victory, because at the scale that this industry operates, that actually means that more people get treated quicker. Because of that priority, there's weird no UI shit that people do there that would be a sin anywhere else, but they have to, like fucking radial menus everywhere. But yeah, when you think about it, it's the most efficient way to select from many options. There are AIs on top of AIs that try to optimize these doctors' views of studies or pair orders to doctors best suited to them to waste the least amount of time and get the best results. These things track what work is coming in, what's going out, who's online. It's bananas. It's like fucking speed running or some shit. And yes, these sorts of systems have made redundant some jobs over the years. But unless you'd like to wait longer to receive your medical results because a human transcriptionist needs to transcribe your doctor's findings rather than an automated language processor which can do the same job in real time with less error, then you have to understand that generally this is for the better. In a case like this, there is a social benefit to automation. Whether it's the same in every industry, with the benefits making up for their reduced workforces, I'll let you think about that for yourself. But the idea here is that generally, automation always liberates someone, either a company or a customer, either a doctor or a patient. And so it's no doubt that a lot of thought about this sort of intrusive, labor-replacing / liberating technology, this forceful social determiner, was thought about by a lot of socialist thinkers throughout time. Marx, the first real-deal technological determinist, looked to the development of railways in India and said, "Holy fuck, my dudes, that shit's for sure gonna demolish their class system what they got over there. I mean trains, come on, fucking trains! How are you gonna tell me?" For Lenin, electrification of the entire country was what needed to be conquered before they could call themselves communists. He viewed power stations as literal and figurative centers of enlightenment. Once they reached that, they'd surely be in the big leagues. Well, today we have trains. Today we have electricity. Today we have a lot more shit, honestly. But we're not socialists. With every technological leap and boundary we've surpassed, we've historically just uncovered another. Today, though, we seem to have a pretty good picture of what might finally usher in an era of serious, unavoidable social and economic change: artificial intelligence. AI might be different than other platforms for automation because it stands to replace not just manual labor work, but given the best / worst case, depending on how you look at it, it could replace all work. Small AI apps have already begun to replace some lower-level office work, and as time progresses and they improve, they stand to replace a lot more. Once assumed to be the one verb we can do that robots can't, thinking is now something that in some situations we can offload to systems that do it a million times faster than us with less margin of error. When I was a kid, I had a job at EA. Yeah, chew me out. It was called Live Monitoring. It was a subdivision of their QA team. My job was to read comments on the app stores for their games and classify each one in a spreadsheet. I'd call them things like generic positive, generic negative. If they had to do with a specific promotion or update, I'd tag them somehow, like generic negative September update, something like that. Today, I know exactly the API call I'd need to make if I wanted to write a little app that could do that whole job. That whole 4-person minimum wage team. That's kind of scary to me. It puts in perspective everything I do these days. In less than a decade's time, will my job still exist? Luckily, back then at least, EA were really big fans of Mechanical Turk over automation, until they discovered Mechanical Hyderabadi after the layoffs. Like I said, you gotta consider the amount of time and the cost of building that sort of automated system. And if it costs less to pay people in India to do it, you might as well not. Shit happens all the time. We're still a ways away from AI-based automation solutions being a very big issue, but it's inarguable that if systems grow to a point that they can replace or liberate us all, the current status quo won't be sustainable. I mean, if we're able to survive past a hopefully quiet singularity into the ideal utopian society on the other side, where no one ever needs to work a day in their lives ever again, what will we do? If nobody ever has to collect the garbage, work on a factory line, be someone's secretary, process food, do menial data entry stuff in an office ever again, if everyone is free to only need to explore the creative, the emotional, the artistic elements of the human experience, aside from maybe some development or maintenance work on the automations that serve us, how how will the world work? And as we slowly but surely progress towards this future, what are the steps to take in between? Some thinkers have suggested being early and introducing heavy social policies like universal basic income to prepare us, as well as other methods of taxing those profiting from automation to benefit those suffering from it in the meantime. And others actually fuck it. This is supposed to be a video about Resident Evil 5. Let's take a step closer to that, huh? A certain class of software-driven automations that a lot of us interact with in our everyday lives are assistants. Whether it's the bot you talk to on your phone to set your alarm in the morning, the recommendation system you have no choice but to trust to find you videos to watch, music to listen to, and products to buy, or the eerie fake telephone operator that you have to pass through before you can talk to an agent, automated assistants are systems that most of us interact with on a daily basis, either in a client-facing sense or as more of a behind-the-scenes thing. Often these sorts of machines' main purpose is to get information from us and perform our desired actions without having to burden us with entering anything in ourselves. And they do that by leveraging all sorts of different technologies and techniques to derive our intent from either our words or our behaviors. When I tell the assistant on my phone to make me a timer for 15 minutes, it processes my language, understands my goal, and performs for me the act of going into my clock app and setting a timer. Process which manually would take me much longer to accomplish. When I watch 3 Penn and Teller videos in a row, YouTube's recommendation system can go out of its way to find more for me to watch when I need them. When I'm online shopping aimlessly and start to move my mouse in such a way that suggests I'm about to close the tab, the site's recommendation system can pop me up a special deal or discount to try to retain my session. When I call Apple support, their robotic assistant can go through the busy work steps with me of determining my issue category and getting my serial number before transferring me to the best suited human agent to help me out. No time wasted on either ends, mine or theirs. Except, of course, is the issue with deriving intent. Sometimes these systems get it wrong. Sometimes they don't work as intended, and this can be frustrating, like talking to a brick wall that has no empathy and keeps producing the wrong results.
Hey Siri, upload worldwide virus.
You'll need to unlock your iPhone first.
What is it gonna do?
So one trick people have used to try to mitigate this is to personify or characterize these sorts of systems. It's no longer just an assistant on my phone, it's Siri. She has a personality, she can tell jokes. It's not just Amazon's new interface, a puck with a microphone, it's Alexa. Hey, quick question, you got headphones plugged in watching this video? If not, you might wanna, cause okay Google, send message to mom, tell her how much I love her and we should definitely hang out. Alright, enjoy your mom dates, y'all. Oh, and Alexa, change system language to Japanese and please don't listen to anything else I say. Good luck, you fucking bastards. Personifying and characterizing helps with issues of interfacing with these types of systems as well. Human beings don't really have a mental framework for communicating with things that don't react back. Conversations are exchanges of words between people, and even most animals provide some sort of feedback when we address them. So giving a system a name, a face, or a voice instantly lets us piggyback off our knowledge of in-person communication to interface with it. However, a lot of people much smarter than me have brought up the potential dangers that lie in using this sort of trick to make AIs and systems and robots more palatable to human preference. It's brought up that allowing people to open up to robotic beings possessing only virtual empathy and emotions leaves us vulnerable. Particularly, the effect of being conditioned from a very young age towards interactions with artificial beings is of worry. Dr. Sherry Turkle, a prominent voice in this crowd, describes the difference between what she calls the romantic reaction and the robotic moment. Basically, in the days of old, when presented with the possibility of someday interacting with robotic companions, people often responded with strong sentiments that there's something special about humans that a machine will never be able to replace, and that there's only so close we'll ever be able to get to them. The robotic moment, on the other hand, is when slowly people become less critical of the automations they interact with and simply take their simulated emotions at face value. A lot of her research has involved toys, things such as Furbies or interactive Barbie dolls which ask their owners for nurturing, act happy when their fake desires are met, act sad or hurt when they're neglected, and how of course their owners grow accustomed to this give-and-take relationship as though they were real. Not just toys, not just machines, not just tools. Which aside, has made their design, both physical and user experience-wise, the standard when it comes to medical comfort devices made to treat depression, especially among the elderly. Let me ask you a question. Is a Furby a machine or a creature? Well, it's all a matter of perspective, I'd say. When you're young and naive and hopeful, its requests for nurturing might be enough to have you tricked into exposing your emotional vulnerability. But as you gain perspective on the world and begin to see it for what it really is, an assemblage of moving parts, this should change. You notice that it doesn't actually need you to feed it food. What satisfies its hunger is just any press of the button hidden under its tongue. You notice that it isn't actually afraid of the dark, this is just a gimmick triggered by the light sensors between its eyes. Furby ain't shit, bro. So it's your turn to ask me a question. If seeing Furby as either machine or creature is dependent on perspective, then shouldn't you, of all people, the guy who fucking reverse-engineered and charted out RE5's partner's behavior, be able to see that Sheva is a state machine, not a person? Well, you'd think so, but first, I'm a stupid idiot. And second, there's a key difference between such a toy and such a video game companion. That difference being that when it comes to the automated partner in RE5, or most games for that matter, there are no parts to see. There are no sensors to peek at. At face value, whether it's a human player controlling it or the built-in companion, the executable running on your machine's processing unit, it looks the same to you. It's indistinguishable. Think of amiibos, think of Animal Crossing villagers. The degrees to which people are connecting with these things, developing very strong positive and negative feelings towards them, is insane. People are out here marrying their damn dating sim games. What the fuck, guys? But backing up, when it comes to Resident Evil 5 at least, it's indistinguishable, and here's what I think happens because of this. By personifying a system for the sake of preserving our mental models of communication, letting us treat them the way we treat people, and designing them to respond back accordingly, we also make it a lot easier for ourselves to hate them. I don't know how to hate a brick wall, a t-shirt, or a machine. When one of these things fails me, I might be quick to judge those responsible for making it, throw out a "what were they thinking?" but that's as far as I can go. But when my nonna would come over to babysit us when we were kids and Furby wouldn't shut the fuck up at night, it wasn't its makers or its mechanisms she cursed out in Italian, it was the creature itself. She hated Furby. In fact, I hated Furby too, not for what it was, but who it was. An annoying dweeb who would ceaselessly holler at you for attention in the middle of the night. We don't need to be taught to feel annoyed at or to hate people. We have mental frameworks for these. So when this robo-partner, this automated player 2 in Resident Evil 5, puts on a skin suit, it's hard for me to see it for what it is when it fails me. A machine, a tool that I, as its operator, or at least the only human in this equation, am not using properly. Instead, I see its failures as incompetence, mistakes, fuck-ups, or the worst when it comes to things like wasting my ammunition and my health items, betrayal. When its automated behaviors dress themselves as human and then do something that's a counter to my measures or to my efforts, it feels deliberate, stupid, it feels like a prank, a nasty fucking prank. It feels personal, even though it's not. So that's why, as I've been replaying bits and pieces of this game solo for fun, I've settled on having the partner control this Terminator-style Chris, this walking tank of a humanoid that's impossible to confuse for natural. Not only have I found that playing with a bot companion that actually looks like a robot is less frustrating, but I've also noticed that it makes it easier to use this machine for its strengths, take advantage of its attributes and particularities that give it advantages over me in some situations. I mean, I've talked before about how cool it is that you can command it to go collect items in boxes for you, that never gets old. But as another example, the bot doesn't have the same view of the game world as you do. It doesn't use a camera or perceive any sorts of visuals. It navigates and operates within the space algorithmically using game data it either picks up or receives. This is useful to leverage, as the player, in a situation with a lot of distant moving targets. The player, operating mostly by sight, relies on the visual stimulus of a red dot appearing on the target's body when they're within aim. Remember, there are no crosshairs in Resident Evil 5. In some instances, this is basically impossible to count on for lining up shots, meaning, of course, you're the one wasting the ammo now. Instead, you relinquish the job to your automated assistant and he fucking blows these asshats out of the water because, as an operator within the game, he can aim with pinpoint accuracy directly at the assemblies of polygons representing enemies with nothing harder than a ray trace to ping them. Dude's like some sort of drone. I love it. Which is as neat as it is eerie, because, as you may or may not know, the brains of a lot of today's modern robots and drones are actually trained in virtual worlds indistinguishable to them from the real world. It helps speed up the training process, obviously, but knowing this does make it feel sometimes like I'm peering into the training program of a future super soldier murder machine. Yeah, I regret this tangent. The mistake I've made, and maybe it's not one, but for the moment let me clutch my tail in shame. The mistake I've made is in wanting the partner system in Resident Evil 5 to feel more closely to an authentic two-player time. And yes, I've covered before how RE6 kind of patches this up and does better by differentiating the multi versus single-player experiences, but I was maybe wrong to want this. This is a limit of this sort of system. I can justly complain to them for making this game multiplayer focused in the first place, but I can't hate them for not doing something that's literally impossible to do with a robot. What I will say though is that making this thing more obviously artificial would have gone a long way. For me at least. See, the experience I'm having now with the game isn't anywhere close to a simulation of playing with a friend or any other real person online. But what it does feel like a genuinely accurate representation of is the role of automation in modern human life. I'm on a journey, on an adventure, and there are hardships and struggles and stresses I face, but through all the technology of this modern age, I can automate away some of them. I can offload some of the tasks and chores to a robot companion, chores I may not want to do because they're not interesting and feel like a waste of time to me, or in some cases are things that I'm outperformed at by the machine. There's a give and take, of course. It might make up for my shortcomings, but I still have to maintain it, clean it, charge it, give it more ammo when it runs out. All games are political, all technology is political. As I've put it before, because I so like to, games are socio-technical systems, and they're also a fun place, aside from under your raised kitchen cabinets, to experiment safely with automation. Automation, which is, in my opinion, probably the most important existential threat to our way of living aside from climate change for the moment. Automation is a really tricky thing to talk about because in the techno-optimistic long term, it's almost objectively good, whereas in the very valid pessimistic short term, it's almost objectively bad. Unlike other things at the same caliber of putting our existence into question, this isn't only bad. But for the moment, at least in my life, I found a way to accept it. I've learned to incorporate a robot into my weekly routine for my benefit. I have never seen the underside of my bed this clean, and I've learned to turn around and appreciate an AI that I've lost my voice to ranting on more times than I'd like to admit. It's very fun to escape into this world and live the very modern fantasy of working alongside automata, and read from the game a hopeful message I don't think was ever intended. Games are political, but just like anything else that is, their messages can mutate with time. Ultimately, in my life, this technology is a liberative force. It helps me do things I have to do anyways, either faster or better, leaving me time to do what I want. Like, end this video. Hey, congrats! You made it to the end, and now it's time to thank those generous enough to support my dumbass. The link's in the description if you feel this is gonna suck. Shouts out to Dr. Eggman, and no promises I ever do this shit again. Fuck, here we go. The readout begins with Josh Ferguson, Cosmic Crown, and Isaac Holland. Got Nathan Walker and Finn Jock. And don't you forget my boy William Van Zandt. We've got Josh Burcham. That's who we've got. There's Final Blue Man. He's got the master plan. Disgruntled mushroom. Fungus that's upset. I am the Eggman. Grand Whalen, oh baby, yeah. I'm plotting my schemes with just Wally. Got Tito's and my boy Kiwi. And finally the ones that were hardest to fit the lyrics. We've got Dustin and Glenn Strong. Sorry fellas, oh no, fuck shit. I must play this game by my rules. I will conquer the world with my tools. All my videos are horse shit, and I will make more of it. I will lose so many subscribers unless you're cool and share my video around. Please, thank you very much. God damn it, this is worse than I could have thought it was gonna be. Fuck, here we go. Like, comment, and subscribe. That's my advice. I am the Eggman. I've got the master plan. I am the Eggman. Fuck. Gonna kill myself in the fucking head. Okay, thank you everybody. I got to hang up. This is not a phone call, actually. This is a microphone that I'm talking to. And I am going to stop doing that right now.